Good morning. Where are my parents out there? You know, parenting don't come with a manual. It's not easy, that's for sure. You know, do you feel like you're a good parent? Were you forced to be a parent? You know, especially if you're a man, you think you was bamboozled, you was tricked, etc., etc. I guess some females could be forced into being parents, you know, but that's a question that I would love for you guys to answer in the comment section, you know. But for me, I have one beautiful daughter. She was actually born on my birthday, June 28th, 2000. So she's 24 years old. Love her to death. But she drives me crazy. You know, and I think it's harder to be a parent to an adult child, to me, than it is when she was younger. You know, we had our rough times, I tell you. It started off early. You know, we lost her mom in a car accident when she was turning 5 years old. So it was by June 18th, 2003. And I'm sorry, 2005. So she was it was rough. You know, 10 days before our birthday, we lost her mom, and I was forced into being a single dad. You know, I never really planned on having kids, to be honest. I wasn't one of those people like, oh, I'm gonna have a child, or I'm gonna have multiple kids. I never really planned it. So it just happened. And me and her mom were together. We was together for a few years, and she had a son prior to me. And my daughter's brother's 4 years older than her. So I basically was taking care of him. So I was a stepdad before I was a real dad. And it was pretty cool, you know, having a boy. He's a good kid. Then all of a sudden, my daughter comes along, and it changed everything. It changed my outlook on life. You know, growing up from the hood in Yonkers, New York, it was rough. And I lived right in dead middle of the projects. And I would see murders, and wouldn't really call it gang violence, but you know, they rolled in packs, you know, friends and cousins and stuff like that. So it wasn't really a gang, but it was definitely a mob mentality. There was no one-on-one fights, I'll tell you that. You know, a lot of drugs in my area. So I didn't believe I was gonna live to see 25. I told my grandmother, told a few friends, I don't think I'm gonna see 25. And the day I turned 25, my daughter was born. So that was God talking to me. So, but back to my daughter, you know, she's very smart, especially at a young age. So, you know, I'm gonna date us a little bit. The day of our birthday, when she turned 5, I took her to Toys R Us. So, you know, any of the younger generation don't know about the Toys R Us right now because they closed down. But back then, Toys R Us was everything. So I took her to Toys R Us, and we get in the building, And I said to her, choose anything you want, it's your birthday. And she looked at me and she said, Dad, I know you need the money because mommy's not here. Broke me down. 5 years old. She didn't want anything. She just wanted to make sure I was good. That's the type of daughter I had, and I still have. So, that put a tear to my eye. So after that, we did what we had to do. Me and her, I met somebody, got married. She wasn't the greatest stepmom, but I'm not gonna fault her. She did what she could. She did the best she knew how. She was going through her situations, mentally, and we all have a past, so who knows what she went through growing up. So, and her first time, being a parent was a step parent, just like me. So I'll never bash her for her doing the best she could with what she knew how. So anyway, I put my daughter in, after her mom died, I had to go through a legal battle with the mom's side of the family. And I mean, it was quick. It was real quick. Like I said, her mom died June 18th. Our birthday was June 28th. They had me in court July 1st. So I didn't even have time to process anything. My stepson was real close to her side of the family. So, I allowed him to stay with them. But they wanted my daughter too. They wanted my daughter. They didn't think I'd be a good dad. They wanted to keep the kids together. I get it. But there was no way. I grew up without a father. There was no way I was allowing my daughter to be away from me. So the biggest mistake and biggest regret I have is not fighting for my stepson. I should have kept them together. So they was raised apart. And so I kind of regret that. And it kind of hurts me to this day. They're close, thank God, they're still close, but it's not what it could have been and what it should have been. And me as a parent, I should have, did what I had to do. But I was young, and I mean, it's crazy because you say young, but young is relative. Because at that time, I was 30. So, but I don't want to say young. I want to say immature. I wasn't mature enough to understand the ramifications of splitting them up, etc. So, anyway, my daughter they went to the same school, actually, because they were 4 years apart. When he was in, when their mom died, she was graduating pre-K. She actually died. She was actually buried graduation day of pre-K. So, with that said, she went into the kindergarten of the school her brother was in. So they stayed in the same school for a number of years. Once he graduated and went to high school, I decided to move to Georgia. So me, my ex-wife, and my daughter, we moved to Georgia. And it wasn't really in that order, because me and the ex had split up at one point, and she went to Georgia first, And then I wound up rekindling and going down to Georgia with her. So my daughter went to high school. She finished up 8th grade, and then she went to high school in Georgia, in Savannah. So I think that's one of the best things that I could have done. I didn't want her in the jungles of New York City. You know, she's very impressionable. She was a follower. You know, as much as I tried to talk her into being a strong, self-confident young lady, you know, I felt like the streets was gonna get a hold of her. So got up out of there, went to Georgia. She did well. You know, her education, because I had her in a talented and gifted school in New York, her education was way ahead of the kids in Savannah. So with that being said, they wanted to put, like, she was in 9th grade taking 11th and 12th classes, you know, so they wanted to graduate her early at like the age of 16. And I was like, nah, she's not ready for college. You know, so, I mean, being the Papa Bear that I am, I fought that. And she wound up just taking college classes while she was in high school and stuff like that. So she did that. That worked out well. Then this is when we had our little hiccups, because she became a cheerleader. So she was the youngest out the group when she was in 11th grade, I think 10th, 11th grade. She was the youngest out the group. So once again, you know, I told you she was impressionable. So the older ones were feeling themselves and they were about that life. Now, mind you, let me tell you, where we lived in a predominantly white area. Predominantly white. So her high school was mostly white. So she hanging out with the white girls and one Spanish girl. And those girls were fast. They were fast, and they were drinking, and they were smoking. And it took me a minute to catch it, you know. I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but me and the ex-wife had separated when my daughter was 16. So at 17, that's when my daughter started to feel herself and thought she was grown, you know. So she put me to the test, and I was working, you know, so it was, when I wasn't home, she was out. When I switched my schedule over and I started working the time she was at school so I could be home more, you know, she was working and doing her thing. But I allowed her to hang out with her friends. I allowed her to spend the night at her friend's house every now and then. Because when I was growing up, my mom wouldn't allow me to do that. You know, so I didn't want to be that type of parent. But I understand why my mom didn't allow me to do that. Because she, like I said, she started feeling herself. And it got to the point where my daughter was being disrespectful. And she was never that type, you know, but she was verbally sarcastic and condescending, and I wanted to kill her, you know what I'm saying? But I said, you know what, you want to be grown? We're going to do grown folks things. Don't ask me for shit, you know. So she was working. She paid for her own prom. She bought her own car. She was paying her insurance. You know, she bought her own clothes. So it worked out great, because to this day, She's very financially responsible. And that's something I was never. I'm still not financially responsible, to be honest. But with that being said, she wound up going to college for a little bit, left college, and then she went to the Air Force. So she's in the Air Force right now. She actually got married to a fellow member of the Air Force. But we had our moments where we bumped heads, we haven't saw eye to eye. Last time I saw my baby girl was March of 2024. When she had found out I had cancer, she came to see me. She spent a week with me, and that was great. But since then, that was prior to her getting married. She got married around Christmas of 2024. But we bumped heads after that, and I met her husband on Skype, Zoom, whatever. Seemed like a good dude, you know. Very important. They're around they're the same age. They both 24, which is great. I always told her, stay within your age group. You know, don't date somebody too old. You know, they try to take advantage of you, try to manipulate you, etc., etc. So anyway, my baby girl got married without telling me. Broke my heart. Broke my heart. I met them on Zoom. I met him on Zoom. I think it was right after Thanksgiving of 2024. And he had planned on proposing. He has a big family in Alabama. So they had all these plans. So Christmas comes and I get a video from my daughter and he proposed in the video. You know, I was happy for her. You know, Merry Christmas, beautiful thing. Then 2 days later, 3 days later, I guess it's his birthday, they wound up getting married. You know, so in Alabama, you know, if I would have got the call, I would have been on the next flight, you know, but it is what it is. It broke my heart. You know, I always wanted to walk my daughter down the aisle. Never got that chance. You know, so I can't be mad at her. She's like her dad. You know, she's, what's the word? You know, she doesn't hesitate to do things. Once it's on her mind, it is what it is. She's gonna do what she gotta do. And hey, what, you know, I could be disappointed, but I still love my baby girl. So I don't know. Sometimes I think I failed her in certain ways. Sometimes I believe I gave her the best life that I could have, you know, because my goal since the day she opened her eyes was to love her as much as I can and give her opportunity to be a successful young lady, you know. And from where I'm from, that's everything, you know. So I've always been dedicated to her. So times like right now when we're not seeing eye to eye, we don't talk like I would like to or see each other when I would like to, it breaks me down. But on the other spectrum, as long as she's healthy and she's happy, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. You know, but this has been a long video. Here we are, almost 20 minutes in. And I gave you a little story time and gave you a little insight on my life, like I always do. If at some point, I'm gonna get into the meat and potatoes of her mom's family and how that went down. But as of right now, I appreciate y'all listening and enduring my blabber. And once again, are you a good parent? Do you believe you're a good parent? Were you forced to being a parent? Let me know in the comments, so we can go back and forth. God bless.